When he was too young to remember, Ordep was left by his parents in the care of a monastery in the heart of Icewind Dale, in Bryn Shander. For many years, Ordep didn't know the reason why he had been abandoned. Growing up in the relatively peaceful and controlled environment, he optimistically believed that he had been left there by his parents' will to give him the opportunity to grow up safely and become an educated adult with great potential. This was particularly valuable in the harsh land of the freezing north, in the 10 Towns. Ordep was a large child, heavier than expected for his young age. But what drew attention to him the most was a large area of his belly covered by a thick crust, dark in color and rough in texture. More creative or perceptive minds even said it resembled the scales of a lizard. Indeed, the monastery environment nurtured optimism in its inhabitants. Despite being a small order, its members were orderly, just, and genuinely concerned with their noble mission in the world. To absorb initially, and then expand all the knowledge that Faerûn has to offer. They were faithful followers of Oghma, the god of knowledge, and within the monastery walls, they cultivated a disciplined life of study and research. Moreover, they never made a fuss about Ordep's apparent deformity, although they always advised him to cover it with appropriate clothing, which was not unusual, as long robes were the standard for everyone. Following the monastery traditions, the first 25 years of training and dedication took place within libraries and study rooms. They needed to absorb as much as possible and specialize in at least 1 or 2 subjects, truly mastering the chosen topics. In Ordep's case, his specialties and deeper research were in religion and history. The next 25 years of service to the order, on the other hand, occurred outside the monastery walls. Having learned everything they could from local libraries, they had to embark on journeys beyond the walls where unexplored knowledge awaited. Additionally, they were given a mission and were judged by the knowledge they produced. They had to record, in large books with blank pages they always carried, new knowledge they found during their pilgrimages. This part was essential for the order, and it was the way they truly saw themselves as useful to the world. As the great recorders of Faerûn's events, nothing should be lost. Everything should be properly preserved for future generations, and as accurately as possible. The few who survived the 25 years of adventures returned to the monastery as teachers for the next generations. Having started his training at the age of 5, Ordep would begin his new life at 30. When he turned 29, already consumed by the anxiety of the new life that awaited him, he had a revelation that shook his convictions and permanently altered his personality. On his deathbed, the Grand Master who had welcomed him almost 3 decades ago shared a secret that had been kept under lock and key. Ordep had been personally abandoned by his father, a noble of the Veragon family. Furthermore, he had been abandoned because he was a bastard, the result of trivial relationship with a housemaid, which had incurred the irreconcilable wrath of the legitimate wife. Not only was he a bastard, but the large mark that distinguished Ordep on his belly caused repulsion in his mother, who could barely stand to look at the baby. The noble Veragon saw no other option than to take the illegitimate son to the most distant place he knew and hope for a decent life. Through research, the Grand Master who adopted Ordep discovered some information about birthmarks that appeared on some members of the Veragon family, but he chose not to believe everything he read, and not to disturb Ordep, only told him that when the time came, the marks could serve to identify him as a true Veragon. Ordep knew, therefore, that the scales came from his descent, but he knew nothing about his relationship with dragons and the like. This great revelation, that he is the son of a Veragon noble, caused feelings never before experienced by Ordep, such as a burning hatred for his father's wife. This intense negative feeling made him question even other principles he had carried with him throughout his life, such as peaceful and charitable living. Since then, Ordep has felt a chaos within himself caused by a whirlwind of emotions, and has tried over time to reconcile the new feelings with the old ones. Should life really be lived only within discipline, books, and the worldly mission given to him? Or should man surrender to more primal and innate desires, such as justice or even revenge? He still doesn't know which feelings will prevail and what the conclusion is, but he is sure of one thing. There is only one place to go when his pilgrimage begins: Waterdeep and the fort of the family that rejected him.